Good evening and welcome to the Late Night Business. My name is Ian Dennis, and tonight on the show we're going to be having a very interesting conversation for any particular entrepreneur watching this. We're going to be addressing the subject of human resource. How exactly do we go about it? What are some of the nitty-gritties that come out of it? We're going to be literally getting a lot of information from the guests that I have lined up tonight. Before we get to start off the show, I'd like to let you know that we are here at the Capital Club, the place you need to be as an entrepreneur, because at the Capital Club, especially if you're doing international business, you can have access to different particular facilities all around the world. So if you're traveling to Dubai, you can have access to one of the networks through the Capital Club. And also something very interesting about the Capital Club is the facilities that are within here at the Capital Club. There's the gym, there's the spa, there are different particular meeting rooms, so you have it all within one particular space. So the guest I'm going to be having a conversation with tonight is an award winner, has been recognized by the Women in Business as a top human resource practitioner, has been in the industry for over a decade and holds so much particular wisdom in matters human resource. I'm speaking to Josephine Irungu, the CEO of Prestine HR Engine. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ian, and good evening to you.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime, one time.
Thank you so much.
Asante. The first question I like asking every particular guest that I have on the show is that, what exactly are you most grateful for today?
Wow. First, I'm grateful to be alive, breathing. I'm grateful for God's grace and grateful that I have known my purpose, and that's what I'm working on. And it's passionate. When you have passion about it, that's what really makes me thrive. I thrive in passion, having known my purpose. And my purpose is aligned to what I'm doing currently and in my career path.
Interesting. It's speaking about purpose, which is a very interesting particular topic. And you're going to be uncovering it, what's it called, as we go about the show. But just to start off the show, I like knowing your history and your background. Primarily, where did you grow up? How was your upbringing like? And what exactly are some of the influences you had growing up?
Wow, that's a question that most people are asked.
Yes.
But when it comes to answering, I don't answer like any other person. You know, people answer it as I grew up like any other girl. For me, I didn't grow up like any other girl. I tend to call it that I grew up very uniquely, but of course in a Christian background, second born in a family. And as usual, I went through primary, high school in Eastern Province. By then we had provinces, but right
Eastern,
now,
yes. now it's counties.
Yeah, now it's county, Embu County. And yeah, as I cleared my form for 20, can you remember? I'm a nose chap.
Yeah, this is a long time ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah, ladies never mention the age. You guys will be calculating.
Yes, and of course I've done IT, I've done human resource. And of course I spent a little bit of my youth, my 20s, in a different county altogether, very far away from home. That was in Kisumu. And started working in 2004. And apparently, let me just say, when I started my career, I started it in 2004, long time ago again. But I started in IT. I'm a techie girl. Yeah, that technical aspect, because I did information technology in JQuat. And I got employed in one of the multinational companies, basically Coca-Cola. That was in Kisumu. And I started as an attaché. I was still on attachments, of which I cleared and the company absorbed me.
Interesting.
So in as much as we'll be talking about human resource today, I have a background in information technology. Yes. And
that's very interesting. And before I come to that particular topic, I just always like to have an understanding, because you know the upbringing that you have usually forms the basis of who exactly you get to become. What are some of the influences you had growing up? Because you've mentioned you've grown up in different particular counties, had various different particular influences, cultural influences. What are some of the, what's it called? What did you want to be when you were growing up?
Wow, what I wanted to be is not who I am. But I am that person in a different way. I grew up saying I want to be an air hostess. I grew up saying I want to be a medic. Because my mom was a medic person. May her soul rest in peace. And apparently I didn't do that. I didn't take that path. More or less I joked in high school. But I'm not a joker, because of course the grades didn't match up to what I wanted to do. They did not align. So I did now IT. But apparently when I wanted to, or when I was saying when I want to grow up, I want to be an air hostess, it changed to a medic person. But apparently when I started information technology, my mom would tell me, don't worry, even in as much as you are not a human doctor, you are a doctor to computers. Yeah.
Interesting.
And right now,
so now that's the viruses
in computers, not people. In as much as right now I'm in human resource, I'm still aligned and crossing path with human.
Interesting.
So more or less, I would say I'm still in that field, dealing with human, not robots or just machines and so forth.
Interesting. Yeah. You'd mentioned that, what's it called, you studied bachelor's in IT and then you got the opportunity to work with Coca-Cola.
Yes.
And primarily, I believe it was still IT related, or how?
IT related.
IT related.
I joined Coca-Cola as on attachment as a student.
Yes.
And I worked, well, I was on attachment program for 1 month. Apparently, the supervisor who was to oversee and to train me resigned. I was left in Equator Bottlers for the 3 months as an attachee. But I was working with service providers, they outsourced, the ones that were outsourced. And after some time, they hired someone else. Yes, so I have years of experience, 6, 7 in IT.
Interesting.
Yes.
And why did that particular transition happen? From, what's it called, you're here, you studied IT, how did you get into human resource? How did that particular journey come into place?
That was a tough one, but it turned out to be, that's who I am right now. Being a techie girl, I was the only one, of course, in IT. We were two, me and my supervisor. And apparently the HR manager then changed office. If I remember well, that HR manager passed on, so they had to employ a new HR manager. The new HR manager had come from Airtel. And when he came, that is the aspect when now he wanted to automate the processes in the human resource department. We had a software in HR that was just line ID. The company had invested so much, but the office occupants were not really IT surveying it. So the MD, may his soul rest in peace, then he was called Manubai Patel, wanted everything automated. The HR manager and of course the MD. And of course it starts every organization you hire from the inside before outsourcing or hiring from the outside. So because I was in IT, I was now redeployed to HR department to make sure that I revive the system. So it had new service agreement was done, the software was a bit upgraded. I remember it was an Endeavor Africa, I'm not advertising them, but that was their software. So I automate the system, that is the leaves, the biometric, the attendance, the payroll, and so forth. So I spend most of the time in human resource. So the HR manager wanted gender balance, and he wanted to have that flow in the office, you know, having a female, because they were all men. And of course, now the redeployment was done internally, and quite a list of female employees were forwarded to the MD, and the MD now had to do check out, Josephine to be in it. For me, I saw it as my career, then because I thought I'll go with IT all through, I knew it's over. And again, the culture that was there, it's when there is changes here and there, the more critical changes coming your way. So I embraced it, and my relatives and my friends were like, Josephine, just take it on. And again, I had known about HR because I was spending most of my working hours in the department. Oh,
and also you're working also on the system.
And I was working on the system. So settling down was, I would say it was seamless. And the HR manager made it comfortable for me. The office, my colleagues in HR made it comfortable for me. And that I automated systems in human resource, and of course now serving the employees. And that's how the transition came about. And it was now fully, I was given a different JD, different title, and my journey began.
Interesting. And it's very interesting because we're in a point whereby everybody wants to become what exactly it is that they studied. And here you are, you had studied this, you're holding on to this, but an opportunity comes into place whereby you have to transition from what exactly you studied to a different particular practice. How would you say that particular transition was for you, and what are some of the lessons you can actually share? Probably just anybody watching this, whereby maybe you're in a particular profession, but you have maybe circumstances, opportunities brings you to a different particular profession. What are some of the lessons you can share from your experience?
The lessons is be flexible, what comes your way, because looking at the age I was in that particular time, I had not known my footing. More or less I was finding who I am or who I ought to be in future. And God places people in your path who are going to assist you, whether knowingly or unknowingly, who are going to assist you find your footing on it. And for me, I will say at first it was a challenge. At first I thought the so-called IT career is dead. But looking at now what I was doing, I found, hey, this is where my passion is. One, I'm interacting with people, and I'm that energized, I'm that bubbly girl. So I was interacting with people, I was sorting out their issues, and I found that's where my purpose is. Giving solution to a human being. Giving mentoring, all right? Giving, you know, you give an idea, the person goes work on it, and he thrives. So I will say passion, determination, because I was determined that I'm not going back. This is the path. Because I ended up enrolling in school, and I had to do a diploma in human resource up to now. Thereafter, I joined Management University of Africa. So I will say at first it was a challenge, But I had to pick up myself, and I'm like, because I'm getting paid, because I can't resign. Why am I resigning? What am I to do? And I had a family by then. So I will say it was a challenge, but determination, persistence, and getting to know what is this in human resource. What is ahead of me.
Yes. So you were in the corporate world for a while.
Yes.
For how many years were you in the corporate world before you transitioned now to set up your own particular consultancy?
From 04 to 2015.
And how was that particular transition? Because I know when you've been in the corporate world for so long, you're just used to the system, you're used to a salary.
Yes.
How is it transitioning now to do your own thing and to setting up your own consultancy? Because this is a consultancy service that you've set up. Yes.
Ian, surprisingly, I never worked for Coco only, but that's where I worked for longer years of my starting corporate world. But thereafter, I've worked with different organizations, major in manufacturing, where I learned a lot. And the impact that was there, also it was not easy. You know, I'm that straightforward person. I'm that, how can I call it? I'm like so focused, and I don't beat about the bush. I'll say it as it is. And I don't like breaking rules, breaking the law. People bend rules, but not quite break. So I'll find most of the time now, I learned through many trainings, seminars, going back to school, interacting with different people who are more experienced in different fields, different industries. I learned a lot to a point now I felt that I'm sorting out problems on phone.
Yes.
Now that I moved different organizations, the previous employers will still call me. Previous colleagues, employees will still call me. So I found myself, I'm doing more of passing information, more of passing solutions. And it reached a point where I was by then, you know, you find a point where the management don't want to change. And more or less, it's not that they don't want to change. It is what is there at stake. Because again, the changes, there are so many dynamics in that field. And that's how I found myself. I would rather now be a consultant. But of course, after I left, I never started a consultant as in alone. I became an associate of other consultants. So people held my hand. And I'll become, as a consultant, a company will want like to hire, we want to recruit, we want to train. They'll reach out to me and, you know, we have an agreement. And later on, the people who are holding my hand were like, Josephine, you have to do this alone and you must have your own company. And that's what came about, registering Prestine HR Engine.
Interesting. And one of the core things, because I know there's always different theories that are always put into place. So before you leave your employment, make sure you have 6 months saving, or make sure the God is on your side and all that stuff. There's already a narrative formed out. But from your experience in terms of making this deep dive from from employment to entrepreneurship, what will you say are some of the key aspects for anybody maybe watching this and is considering transitioning from employment into entrepreneurship that they need to know?
It depends what you want to do. For me, I was offering a service. And a service, more or less, it's not quite expensive like offering a product. So it depends what you want to offer. It depends as well the need in the market. Because there's a difference of being a business person or that businessman and an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is there to solve problems, is there to give solutions. And like a business person, every now and then you're after that coin, you're after that profit. An entrepreneur, you are not even after a profit. You're after a solution is made, there's value after that, you get paid. So consideration is what is it that you want to offer. So meaning if it is a product, you must be having capital, either through savings or angels or, you know. So for me, I had savings, yes, but now that I was offering a service, it was easy for me to offer a service and then get paid. So I wouldn't say that I started on a difficult foot, but I had savings. But it was not an easy decision to make, Ian. Let me just say it was not an easy decision to make because I had bills. And when I'm stepping into now being a self-employed person, looking for business out there, it was not easy because it's not a guarantee. But I thank God that I have God's favor. And people knew my work. People know how I do this. So referrals were...
it was at least it was an easy footing.
It was an easy footing, yes.
And one of the things now, because I know there are so many different entrepreneurs, and the biggest question is that at what point should you now, as an entrepreneur, get to employ someone into your business? So considering that you're a human resource, what's it called, specialist, so if you're to advise any particular entrepreneur, at what point should an entrepreneur starting any particular business employ, and what are some of the, prerequisites should an entrepreneur put into place when making their first particular, or getting their first particular employee?
Starting as a business owner, you have to find yourself doing like everything. You are a finance person, you are HR, you are cleaner, you are the accountant, you are everything. until a point where your business will grow and you have something to pay your staff. So I will say it doesn't have a definite period that after 3 months you have opened a business, now you have to employ. It depends with the needs and of course the demand in the market. Because if you have more contracts coming in, I was not in a position to do them all alone, and hence I had to have associates around me. And because again, putting a consultant on a payroll is quite expensive, unless the firm is too big. You know, your company now is too big. It's maybe in East Africa or over and above the region you are in. So I will say I never hired like immediately. I was doing everything. But however, I have people who are experts in different areas, in training, in recruitment, in doing job evaluation and analysis. In as much as I'm good in all these areas, of course I can't be all, you know, I'm a generalist. I'm a generalist, yes, but I can't do like everything because of course the demand is out there. So I worked with associates who I'm working with right now. I have a team, yes.
And primarily for any entrepreneur, because you know guys in different businesses. So let's just give an example. Primarily, maybe I'm a tailor per se. So when I'm to employ my first employee, what's the best advice? Would I bring them in as a full employee? Should I bring them as a consultant? And when I'm factoring both particular decisions, because you know when I bring in as an employee, you have government regulations. What some of the factors should I put into place? Maybe just for any particular entrepreneur watching this, what are the advice you would give them when they want to make the decision as to anybody they want to bring on board to assist them in the business?
Okay, being a small size business, I wouldn't advise someone to go very fast into hiring. Yes, you will hire, but not putting a person in a payroll. You can start by piece of work. Using an example you have given, you a tailor, you can pay as per the piece of work, the many suits or the many, you know, the many clothes the person will make. So you pay as per the piece of work, meaning of course there is that percentage that you are going to pay this person. The person is not with you a whole month because again that will come about with many taxes and so forth. But after you grow, it's always good now to have a permanent person in your system. You can have people as casual based. Casual based is where you are paying after the end of the day, meaning you are paying them wages, not a salary. And once you grow, meaning there is need for work. You want a fluent person, you want a regular person. There's no one who is permanent, but the language of the word people know is permanent employees. You don't have permanent employees are not permanent. They're not assets. You know, they are regular, meaning turnaround of a month or so. So you cannot put them on a payroll, but it's always good to have a contract or an agreement. Even if it is 1 week, I always advise employers make a written agreement because there are two types of contracts. There's verbal contracts and a written contract. A verbal contract is there's this job, 1 day, 3 days, I pay you, that's it.
How do you prove a verbal contract?
What people will agree and against mode of payment.
How can you agree?
And again,
so maybe
it calls for honesty.
So I'd say this, but maybe I come into, so how do you put into place as an employee? How do you secure yourself on verbal agreement?
But looking at where we are right now, I always advise employers to have a written document, even if it is a day. Have it stipulated that you'll work for me for at the end of this day, just like a draft, a format that someone will just fill and you know, and like before there's that word of mouth, there's that trust which you build on trust, which is very good, yes, but it's better to have a written document. Either it can be soft copy or it can be hard copy.
Interesting. You've mentioned the aspect of casual and permanent. Maybe just before we go on a break, what's the difference between what's it called, a casual employee, or let me just try to rephrase the question. For how long should you have a casual employee before they become a permanent employee?
A casual employee should, it's a 1 day. It's a 1 day job.
So you cannot be casually working for a company for 1 year.
However, you'll find employees who are casual in organizations, they are there almost a whole month. But you find now that it's a 1 day job, meaning they're paid wages. Wages you are paid at the end of the work or at the end of the day. But you find that there are those who are coming from Monday to Monday, meaning even the rest day, which is on a Sunday, needs to be paid. But such employees should not be with you for more than 3 months. Hence what you find organizations do a rotation. You come for 3 days, go rest, another person comes in, that way. So that a person, there is no like, the person is not there on a regular basis.
Interesting.
Because so that person, you make that employee a regular employee.
So if you have a casual employee, it's not supposed to be with you for more than 3 months?
No, not more than 3 months.
Interesting. If they're more than 3 months, what happens?
No, you have to make them regular. You have to give them a concrete contract. What you call a contract, whether fixed or open contract.
Wow, interesting. All right, so we're going to take a short commercial break and then we're going to find out how casual we can be, how regular we can be when it comes to matters employment. So see you after the break. Welcome back to the show. So before we went on a break, we were discussing the issue about casual employee and how exactly the casual employee can be transition into becoming a full employee. And I think one of the things that you mentioned was that it takes 3 months as a casual employee. You're supposed to automatically transition. What about if the employer is not able to transition you into a permanent employee? Or maybe is afraid of maybe trying to avoid some of the obligations, because you know, as a full employee, there's so many obligations. NHIF, NSSF, now housing, everything. There's so much that comes into place, and I'm sure most of the entrepreneurs want to avoid these particular expenses. What can an entrepreneur do?
One, the employer should not be afraid. Having fear and you're working in business, that's not something that you need to work on. Be a risk taker, yes, but not to have fear. So an employer should not have the fear of having the casual employer not wanting to make the employee on a regular basis. And as I said, casual will work for you like it's daily job. But what to break that the casual aspect, you can rotate your employees. I have you work for me for 2 days or 3 days. I have another person. Then after 2 weeks you can come in. No, that's you'll be a casual employee. But if you are continuously working, it should not exceed 3 months.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the aspects, even when you're a casual employee, you have to pay the NSSF and the NHIF.
You're obligated as an entrepreneur.
NSSF, that's a must. Yes.
So
an employer needs to pay for you.
Wait. So if you're a casual employee, you're a daily employee, but there's an obligation you're supposed to pay as an employer.
Yes, for NSSF.
Interesting.
Yes.
And what's the difference between a casual and a consultant? And what are some of the obligations for both?
Okay. Casual, we can maybe not even use a casual, just to get your question, employee and a consultant. An employee is there, will pay the taxes, the employer will have to pay the taxes, the employee will have to pay the taxes, where the employee will have to pay as you want. We'll have to pay the statutories. We're talking about NHIF and SSF, where both employer and employee are paying that. But a consultant pays a professional fee, which can be withholding tax 5%. If it is not, I'm not sure whether it is in gross or not. But it's on a professional fee. You'll have to pay a professional fee. But an employee will be based on paying all the statutories.
Yes, but the only difference between permanent and a casual employee is just the obligations that one is supposed to pay.
Yes, the obligations. Interesting.
You've mentioned there is something interesting whereby you mentioned that a casual employee can only work for you for 3 months before they become a full-time employee.
Continuous 3 months.
Yeah, continuously 3 months. But for a consultant, how long can a consultant work for a business?
Yeah, a consultant, that will depend with the scope of work. Yeah, depend with the scope of work. As for me, I'm a consultant. I've been a consultant for, like, I'll give an example, one organization since I started.
Yes.
Yeah, 2015, 2018. Yeah, from 2018, because that's when I registered Prestine Arranging. A consultant can be with you for as long as you employ you want. Yeah, because you may have a consultant on a monthly basis. And you are paying, the consultant is charging the professional fee, which of course from a point of being the employer or the company, you are deducting the withholding tax. So for a consultant, there's no timeline, there's no base. Even an employee, there's no base. An employee can retire until they are 60, 55 or 65 with you. So I would say there's no like timeline. It depends with the scope of work. Yes.
Interesting. And when you're looking at it in terms of, because I know the biggest decision is that as you're starting a business, so it's advisable to work with consultants. So in order for you, how would you advise for any particular entrepreneur starting it? Is it vital to employ earlier on, whereby you meet the obligations, or you get in consultants to help you? I don't know, from where you sit, what would you advise for any particular new entrepreneur or any entrepreneur who wants to grow? What are some of the decisions they need to make around this?
What I would advise is how outsource the services. When you outsource the services, of course, you're outsourcing the services to a professional. For example, account services. You don't need to start by hiring an accountant because that will come with a lot of expenses, because we are looking at leave is an expense. In as much as it's a benefit to the employee, it's an expense to the organization. We are looking at medical. We are looking at the statutories that you talked about. So you can outsource the accounts service to a company that offers that, or even to an individual who you're going to charge per work, per the work done, and you pay a certain fee or a certain percentage. Yes.
Interesting. And as an entrepreneur within the business, how do you put yourself, how do you qualify yourself? What's it called when you're looking at it? All these matters, what's it called? The legal parameters. So as an employee, as a founder or an entrepreneur, how do you enlist yourself? As an employee of the business, or are you a consultant of the business?
Employee of the business.
And are you obligated to pay all these particular legal parameters?
Yes, I pay the NSSF and HIF and even the taxes.
And as an entrepreneur, if you don't?
Why should you not?
I'm just asking. I'm just asking questions. I'm just asking the questions.
You have to pay these taxes. Yes.
Interesting. I think one of the biggest challenge that most entrepreneurs face is the aspect of firing, right? And I know that's one of the biggest issues that most entrepreneurs face. and in order for them to avoid some of the legal obligations of being sued much later on. So what's the process in which an entrepreneur needs to follow up before getting to fire any particular employee in the business?
The HR is known for hiring and firing, but HR is more than hiring and firing, you know. Hiring and firing was associated with the previous personnel management, which was now turned to be the human resource, and putting the H, which is the human aspect in it, before the R. Hiring, when it comes to firing, there is a procedure that has to be followed by the employer. You can't wake up in the morning and you're like, I tell you now, Ian, I don't think you are good working for me. Just pack your bags and go. There must be a procedure that has to be followed. Failure to following that procedure is what accumulates or attracts penalties and litigations in court. And especially if your employee is aware of his right. Because the employees who are not really aware of their rights, either by ignorance or depends with the background, but there is a procedure, because before firing, the so-called firing, I don't like using the word firing as Josephine and as an employee of Prestine HR Engine, I like calling it separation, because separating with an employee can be the employee has resigned that willingly or terminated by the employer. So if it is by mistake meaning misconduct, that is the employer who is now separating or terminating the services. So
how do you, what are the parameters? What are the parameters of misconduct? Because misconduct is literally
misconduct, we are guided by section 44(4) of Employment Act 2007 revised 2012. That there are those aspects. For example, an employee can come, has a habitual lateness, or is not found at a place of work, which again, employer has to define, what do you mean you didn't find me at a place of work, you know? So that's now, it calls for an employer or an organization to have internal policies stipulating what is it that you call or you define is a misconduct that can lead to someone being terminated. So it can be like section 44A is, 4A is you are not found or you are absent at your place of work. Yeah, that again is defined or is equated to lateness. So you can have a visual lateness that can call you to be dismissed or rather to be terminated from work. Others coming to work drunk, and again something that is really debatable is when the employee is intoxicated, you know. So again, you can't let an employee go because he came intoxicated or he came in drunk.
How do you define
Because you find an employee now, the employee gives you 10 nail and you'll be like, I drank yesterday at 10 p.m. That's just a smell of alcohol. But again, as an employee, you have to prove that this person was drunk. Drunk in the sense that the employee was not in a capacity to do what, to perform the duties. Maybe staggering to a point that he injured himself or herself. You know, you must prove as to why. So it's not easy just to let go. And if you just let go an employee, that's where now you attract the litigation and the penalties and so forth, which are very expensive.
Interesting. So what's the process? So I have an employee, and primarily maybe this particular employee is not suitable for my business and I want to let go. So what do I need to do as an entrepreneur? All
right. Looking at the gross misconducts, that as an organization you have to stipulate what is this that you call gross, in as much as we are guided by the section 44, and also non-performance, if the employee is not performing. If the employee is not performing, when you engage at work, there is the first month that you are given to showcase yourself, the probation period. And the probation period is not only for the employee, it's both employee and employer, because the employer needs to know have I hired the right, have I hired the right talent? The employee as well has to check, is this the culture set for me? Am I comfortable and so forth? So there is that time you have to check whether the employee is really performing. If the employee is not performing, there are those communications and verbal or written that you have to check. The appraise or sit down with the employee, let the employee know that this is the target I give you, and not read the target. So there are those performance improvement notices that the employee is shown. There must be a communication as to why you are letting go an employee. Because again, if it is a gross misconduct, there must be a first warning, second warning, third warning. You sit down in a disciplinary committee, they determine your case, they either let you go or you're given a warning. So there is a process before you let go an employee. It can be performance based, it can be a gross misconduct. Yeah.
And primarily, what's it called? Because we're in an era whereby all these laws are
so mainly the court, just to cut you, mainly the court looks, they don't look at the mistake. Because you can do, if there is a bad blood relationship, I don't want you to work for me or let you go. So the court doesn't look at the mistake. It charges and look at was a procedure followed. Was a procedure employed. So it's not about the mistake.
Interesting.
It's not about the mistake.
So primarily it seems like it's such a long process.
It's a long, and it's expensive as well. So the moment you find an employee is not really performing, especially, start a process, start the procedure in advance. Communication that they should be filed, showing the employee you're giving them chances, maybe like being flexible on their JDs, putting them under a certain mentor to coach them, to show that as an employee I've really done my best, then, but the employee is not. So hire slow, fire quick.
Interesting.
Yes.
And I think that's always something that's like hiring slow. It's usually what's it called, a mantra that's always been pushed around. So when it comes to hiring, I don't know, they always say you need to have a third eye.
Yes.
Because there are always people who seem educated, they are always very good through the interview process.
Yeah.
But how do you determine if an employee is right for you? Because I think that's the biggest challenges that most entrepreneurs face. Oh, I hired this person, I had hopes, now I'm obligated with a contract to take care of this particular person.
Yes.
But what are some of the things that, especially when you're hiring, that someone needs to look at?
Have a job description defining the role. You know what you want from the role. So you are hiring a person who matches the role. So you are looking at the competence of the person, of course the years of experience of the person. You are looking at a culture fit. So it's not only having what you need to offer me in terms of the skills, the skill set, of course, which is number one, but culture fit as well. Mentor. Mental health of the person.
I think everybody's insane.
Personality of the person, because you can hire someone who will not fit with the the rest of the team. So you look at all those, and of course the budget, because you find you are getting the right fit but very expensive. So as an employer, an entrepreneur, have a JD, have a job description for that particular role. Not hiring a person and then today you're telling them this, tomorrow you're changing the role, you're changing their responsibility. So have a clear set key performance indicators or pointers that will lead you to this person performing. So make it clear and you'll get the right fit.
One of the biggest questions around, what's it called, that most entrepreneurs look for is the aspect of having interns coming to the business as a wage safe budget. But for how long legally is one supposed to be an intern?
Again, it's what you want to set in your organization. There are organizations that gives an opportunity of 18 months for an intern, because an intern, 18 months. There's a difference between an intern and attaché. The difference is this: attaché is already a student. The attachment is a course; it's a unit. But an intern has already graduated.
Yes.
So you find employers or entrepreneurs may confuse the two. They'll be like, "Hey, Josephine, I want an intern. Look for me an intern." So I have to ask an intern for what particular purpose? Because an intern is ready to get into the marketplace.
And
so he just
legally they can be there for 18 months.
It depends now. It's internal. You can have an intern for 6 months and then you graduate them to be a regular employee. You can have an intern for 3 months. You can have an intern for 10 months. Again, it depends on which role. Because if it is a senior most role, a managerial role, you are putting them at that place to learn. So it can be 18 months if it is a managerial role or even a supervisor.
And the biggest question is about interns being paid. Should interns be paid or not be paid?
They should be paid because they're employees. It's very well stipulated.
Also, interns are looked at as employees.
Yes, even when you, as long as a person is an apprentice, it's called what? Apprentice. That's an intern, or even someone on attachment. That's an employee. The definition of the employee, the Employment Act is very, very clear on that definition.
As an intern, are they also obligated to pay all these particular statutory deductions?
Yes, they're earning.
Oh, so an intern also has to be paid.
Pay as you earn.
Oh, pay as you earn. NSSF, NHF.
Yes.
Even the housing.
But again, the tax has a threshold, which is from 24,000. Below that, there's
so below 24,000 is nothing.
But the statutory in terms of the NHF and NSSF that they have to pay.
Interesting. Yeah. So as a country, we are going through tough economic times, and I'm sure there are so many different particular employers or maybe business people who cannot meet the obligation of paying the employees on time. I don't know, in such a situation, I'm running a business, primarily the income is not sufficient for me to be able to take care of my employment.
Yes.
So how does the law protect me as an employer, and how does the law protect also the employee who's not able to receive their salaries on time?
Make it clear, let the contract be clear. If them, as an employer, you're not able to pay your employees, let them know that. Of course, you can't tell them I'm not going to pay you and they're working for you. But if there is a delay because of insufficient funds, have communication, have a clear communication to your staff. Let them know that there will be a delay to pay your salaries, because these are people who have families. They're people who have bills to pay. So clear communication that yes, I'm going to delay your salaries up to this particular date because of 1, 2, 3, 4 is happening. And again, make it known to your employees that you are facing difficulties. Don't hide behind boardrooms and having boardroom meetings with your managers. And the same is not being communicated to the employees or the lower level, because they are there working day in, day out. They come in early. They, some don't even go for lunch. So make it clear, in as much as you're holding meetings, strategic meetings with your managers, let the managers go down there and let the employee know that yes, as a business, we are facing these difficulties and they will be slow. So if an employee finds that they're struggling in that organization, they can resign. You know, there are those who are patient, but walk the talk. You say you will delay the salaries, you pay them on the 10th, and you're used to paying them on the first day of the month. Walk the talk. Let them by that 10th, you have something to pay your employees. So I'll say clear communication all the day.
And maybe let me put it also into picture during the COVID period, because during COVID it happened because most businesses were rendered, what's it called? The business couldn't work out, and you're not able to pay your employees. And maybe as a business, you may not be able to also to sustain these employees for a longer period of time. And primarily you may not see for how long, so, and you have a contract with this particular employee. So what should and as an entrepreneur, what should you do in such an instance?
In such an instance, in such an instance, we have said communication. So you can cut down the salaries, but you can't do it without an agreement with the employee. Let the employee know. So
if the employees refuse.
If the employees refuse not due, they can't force you to pay as well. The business is not doing well. So it calls for mutual agreement. And you can, like what happened in most organizations during the COVID-19 period, most organizations cut off the salaries. Not 100%, but they cut off the salaries. So when the business come up, you can compensate. Because I have one of my, he was my former employer and now became my client. They cut off for a period of 3 months, but when the business picked up, they reimbursed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges, and I know most entrepreneurs never really anticipate it, is managing crisis. Because crisis does happen in any particular business. I think if you're an entrepreneur, you've not gone through crisis, then you haven't done business for a while. But as an employer, what are some of the advices? Would you advise any particular entrepreneur who's going through crisis? How would you manage such a situation? Let's say the ones whereby you're not able to meet your payroll.
I advise don't look at the risk management. Look at what happens in the eventuality a risk comes in, because you find as Kenyans and business owners, entrepreneurs, we look at, we face the risk the moment it's here with us, and hence itself becomes a crisis. Yeah, it's looking at the eventualities, the what if. Always entrepreneurs apply the what if in your business, what if in your processes, what if in your procedures, because now you'll be in a position, okay, fine, right now we are doing very well, this is what we are employing, but what if we don't perform well? What should we do? So the what ifs will be under your cover, and the moment the crisis comes up, you just pull. And again, have crisis committee that they are just there waiting for, should there be something. And again, before it even becomes a crisis, there are red flags. Have the pointers. Have the pointers pointing to the red flags that you're getting. This is a red flag. One, it can be through an experience. As a business, there's something you're experiencing on, and you look at it that this has happened quite a while. How are we going to stop it? So that there's no repetition of the same, because now that becomes a liability. So it's looking at the red flags, writing them down, looking for solution, and now you can close the book. In case such thing happen, you now know what to do.
So it's very important to have policies.
Yes, important to have such policies.
And one of the biggest things around HR is this particular common phrase that culture eats strategy for breakfast, whereby culture is such an important element for any particular business. So as an entrepreneur, how can you inculcate a good culture within any particular business? And how are you able to fend off bad culture that comes out in the, in the sequence of you running your business? How are you able to put, or rather maybe to ensure that you have a good culture within your organization?
The culture starts from the top, from the decision makers, from the owner of the business, from the entrepreneur himself. It's what your personality and what you attract. If you're attracting
toxic people never know they're toxic.
Toxic people never know they're toxic. But if you are sober, and that calls for you as an entrepreneur to be sober. If you know you're sober, you'll attract sober people. You attract sober, or there's nothing like wrong personality, but you attract someone who is like not you, but someone who complements you. And again, not having like one personality at workplace. So the culture is what you name it at. And again, how you sort solutions. If the precedences are there that are negative, that will break your culture. So in as much as all that is laid down, communication comes first. If there's no proper communication in an organization, that will find now the culture is wayward. There is no like feedback. And encourage feedback in your organization. So that now you can have that open door policy, you can have that feedback and criticism, embrace the criticism. So it's in as much as who you are attracting, who you are is who you attract. However, at times as an entrepreneur, step aside, let your managers do the thing.
Interesting. And maybe from your experience, what are some of the biggest HR mistakes that most entrepreneurs make that they come to literally pay out later?
Hiring wrong.
So you always have to be sober in terms of hiring.
You have to be sober.
So
hiring wrong.
So hire slow.
Hire slow, fire very fast. You hire wrong talent, that's what you get. And being that mistake, it takes like 7 years.
Wow.
7 years to work on that mistake. Minimum of 7 years. Because you hire very fast and you hire wrong. You have not, you know, you didn't employ a very complex system in hiring. It was referral. It is, you know, hiring your relative.
Brother,
you can't like have a boundary or separate the two. So the worst mistake and the first mistake is hiring wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So before you wind up the show, I have 10 questions. It's a quick fire. Answer whatever that comes to your mind. So what is one thing that you regret spending money on?
Hey, regret spending money on? Oh my God. On the wrong things. What are the wrong things now? Yeah, on the wrong things.
Nothing's coming to mind. So if you could be transformed into one animal, which one could you choose?
Dolphin.
What is your hidden talent?
Hey, hidden talent. My hidden talent. Wow, I don't know.
How do you usually answer the phone?
Hello. Okay, my direct line is hello. If it is someone.
So the other person says hello from the other side.
Yeah.
Money or happiness?
Happiness.
Salty or sweet?
In between.
Are you more of an introvert or an extrovert?
Extrovert.
Would you rather travel to the past or to the future?
Future.
Are you more of a thinker or a doer?
Both.
And the final question, what do you think the meaning of life is?
Living on purpose.
Interesting.
Purpose, yes.
My goodness. Such an interesting conversation I've had with Josephine Irungu, the founder of Prestine HR Engine. And we've addressed so many different particular matters around HR and what exactly you need to know is always available. You can find her across social media and she can always get to advise you on matters HR because HR is such an important aspect. So thanks so much for having watched the show. As we wind up, always let you know that we are here at the Capital Club, the place you need to be as an entrepreneur, and it's a very interesting network that you can actually get to be a part of. My name is Ian Dennis and this has been the Late Night Business, the place whereby we have conversations around entrepreneurship. Until next week, see you right here on KTN Home.